Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are once again looking at some leaks for various nations when it comes to the vehicles that will be coming in the future for them. Today we're going to be having a look at Sweden, just because it is once again a shorter list and I don't have too much time today. But as I said, every day we'll have a different scheduled video for a different nation until they're all over. So let's get into the vehicles that should be coming in the future when it comes to Sweden. The first vehicle for Sweden is of course the STRV 103B. Now this vehicle has actually been in the files before. When Sweden as a nation was added to the game, the 103B was just sat there for the longest time, not really doing anything, just twiddling its thumbs. And then it got removed from the files and it still hasn't really done anything. My guess is it'll come as an event vehicle or a premium vehicle or something like that in the future. The 103B is very similar to the 103A. The major difference between the two is that the B has an upgraded engine. It has access to the Caterpillar 553 turbine. This gave it 490 horsepower, where previously the STRV 103A variant had a Boeing's 300 horsepower engine. The reason why they upgraded to the B standard, they basically made all of the A's B's eventually, is because of the fact that the A was seen as very underpowered for the amount of weight that it was carrying on the machine. Therefore they needed more powerful engines. The next one is the STRV 122B+. This is a technical demonstrator based off, of course, the STRV 122. It was built in 2010 by the Swedish Defense Material Administration, and it was basically to work out, do they want to increase the armor on stuff like the 122? Do the armor modules, which were procured from the IBD Dyson-Roth Engineering's AMAP armor package, does it actually work well on the 122B+ in itself, and also is it required? Pretty much they just added a bunch of different armor packs on the vehicle, which supposedly increased protection levels, and they did this by using more advanced composite materials. So therefore you got increased protection but not increased weight. So in terms of the game, what this would give you is an STRV 122B, which would have access to better protection. It would also of course have the additional mine protection, because that was one of the big differences between the A and the B. So this would be another high tier MBT to give to Sweden. Another PVKV is also on the books, and this one was actually leaked a few years ago. This is the PVKV4. It's once again part of the series of vehicles that were built in the 50s by the Swedish to try and extend the life of course, the L60 light tank, which is the STRV M38 to M40 series of vehicles. It didn't go too well, to be honest with you. They just made a bunch of prototypes and decided going other ways was a good idea. This vehicle itself uses a 57mm, started off life, of course, as a towed anti-tank gun, and decided to create a turret for it and stick it on the platform. To be honest, it didn't do too badly, but at the same time, it had a few issues with it. Basically, the trial showed that there were issues with the aiming of the gun itself, so the PVKV4 was rejected in favor of another conversion based on the STRV M41 chassis, which was possibly the PVKV3, but then that one also ended up getting rejected. So the PVKV4 probably got scrapped and didn't really stand the test of time. We did get the PVKV3 and 2 in the game, so it only makes sense to throw this one in. It has access to not just the 57 PVKV M43, but also a 8mm KSP M39 coaxial machine gun. And what is really nice about this one, alongside a lot of other Swedish machines, even though it's quite large, it has 14 degrees of gun depression, which is super nice at that time. One of the problems though, it does only have a 2.3 degrees per second turret traverse speed, which is very rough, and then a 5 to 6 rounds per minute rate of fire, so about 10 seconds, which would not make it very good. in general. Not a ton of armor either. You're talking about literally 12 millimeters on the front of it and only 20 millimeters for the gun mantlets. So not the best showing vehicle, but I tell you what, it would probably have crazy optics like the other ones. The finish will also get a Hurricane Mark 1 Lite. This one is already in the game, in the British tech tree, and I've got to say it's a pretty nice vehicle. It works incredibly well, and will hopefully serve the finish pretty well. Unfortunately, during the war, it didn't really serve them too well. Finland bought 12 Mark 1 Hurricanes at the end of the Winter War, but they lost 2 in the actual transit flight to Finland, so they only ended up with 10. They also didn't have too much success. They only got about 5.5 kills between them, and when hostilities began on the 25th of June 41, their use generally was pretty limited, which isn't a surprise because of the fact that they were kind of outdated at that time, but also one of the issues that they had is they didn't have a ton of replacement parts for them, so if anything went wrong, they were kind of, well, just not able to fly around. They also captured a Hurricane Mark 2B, though, from the Soviets, and it was flown by the Finnish Air Force, so technically they could get 2 separate Hurricanes, which would be quite nice to see. There's also another helicopter, the HKP-9A CB3. Now this is the same as the other HKP-9As, so it's a BO-105 variant, and there's already 2 of them in the Swedish tech tree, the HKP-9A and the 9AFC. The major difference between those two is their armaments. One of them has access to the 55B heli tow, whereas the FC has access to the 55C heli tow. So my guess is this one would have a difference in armament once again. One of the things I'm really struggling to find information specifically on the CB3. I found information about the CB, the CB4, the CB5, and all of the other variants, but the CB3 has moved away from me. It is still based on the standard BO-105CB, which was like the main production variant of it though, so I don't think there'll be too many differences between it and the other ones which are already in the tree, but if there are, I apologize for not letting you know. Those are all of the ideas and leaks for the Swedish tech tree for the given future. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.